Hello, and welcome to episode 27 of Fables from the Pickled Quipper. I am in fact not your dungeon master. This is voice of Esker and podcast editor Rich. Just doing the introduction this week. Last time we left off, the gang was down in the caves beneath the city, hanging out with the kobolds, looking into the confusion with the two books, whilst Esker was trying to take a real power nap. We join the action as they decide quite how they're going to progress from here.
So, let's have a quick recap. A rescue mission was put in place to go save Valiant, Young, Splick or Sprock, one of those two, and head back up to speak with the kobolds at their base camp. Silveris and Claire, I want to say, we're looking at the two books.
I helped them with traps. Sort of.
Esker went through a training too.
Right. Oh, yes, I did forget some rather important things. Thank you. Yes. Let's bring you guys back into the caves.
Eska was doing her version of sleeping.
That's correct. She has not finished a sleepy sleep.
Dare you?
And we were kind of done with what we were doing.
Yes. And you had given me a couple of different suggestions as to what you might be doing next. What would you like to do? Eska, I think it's been probably only a couple hours so far.
So, where do we go from here? Shall we wait for Eska?
How long does she sleep for?
I think I said before I went to sleep, like, hey, if I'm going to attempt to sleep, but if need be, wake me up and we'll go. I think it's 4 hours, yeah.
Let's see how much I paid attention for that. I got a 9 on that.
Yeah, so Budor wasn't paying too much attention. He doesn't really care about what elves are up to. So Varys, you recall.
We have much to do, yet Eska more useful when well rested. I suppose we can discuss the day. What are we to do when we head back to Delzimer? For I assume we are heading there.
Well, we have a few things that we need to, I think, find out. Whether we want to deal with the Velvet Glove, or whether we want to find more information about Illithid, because I feel like we're going to end up having to fight him soon, whether we want to or not.
Our paths will cross again.
It's a conversation with Kaylee. Perhaps.
Good place to start. Ingrid may know about protection from the purveyor. I wish to speak with Cater, as always, and perhaps Riskin.
It also might be handy to ask about the origins of Delzimer, given the differences in the two prophecies.
True. Perhaps a visit to the Fulroth.
Yeah, see if anybody knows anything more about the Purveyor's ability to monitor us. I think the more we do, and if he's truly able to see as much as we think he might be, the more we do without some sort of protection is, could be dangerous.
I agree with Cosette, though. I do think our top priority should be trying to figure out how he's watching us and possibly how to prevent it. Because if he is watching us constantly, the more information that we find, the more information he knows.
Yeah, that's what I'm scared of as well.
From what we found of Cater, there is no telling what he knows of us.
That's true, but we don't want him to find out any more than he already does.
I agree. We can, of course, separate, form two parties, get an early start in town.
I was gonna say, is there do I know of any other places that could potentially help us out magically besides just Ingrid?
You do. Yeah.
I do. Excellent.
You all do in theory. The academy, where
from
Cater
where
was studying.
Cater came from.
The Academy of Alchemical Arts, and that is in Dulcimer. Though I doubt Bardor's ever had any reason to go there.
Oh no, I don't. So yeah, I'll tell the group. I was like, well, we could poke around at the academy that Cater went to. They might be able to help us out too.
Well,
Yes.
if we want to visit the academy, it would probably be helpful to swing by and get Cater. He might, I mean, he doesn't go there anymore, but he at least knows the layout a little bit better.
Yes. Finally, another use for him.
Nothing says great social ambassador like Cater.
That's
It's such
why he does not go
He
alone.
makes such a great first impression.
I'm asleep over here, but I'm imagining we just send in Silvarius and Cater, and it should be fine.
The dream team.
Yeah.
I mean, sounds fine to me.
So Varus, he wants to go ahead. If he wants us to get a rest, but he also wants to go ahead.
Well, that doesn't help anything. You've just said both options.
I know.
Should we do option 1 or option 2? Yes.
We split the party.
Well, to be fair, if we don't plan on leaving town today, maybe she can be a little tired today.
So Varus walks over to Eska and uses his boot to kind of nudge, like, not too heavy of a kick, but kind of.
It's time to go.
Aye,
Okay.
our
Here we go.
interest lies in heading back to Dulcimer.
That sounds just fine. I'll tag along. I'd like to get out of these caves anyway.
Figured you would.
I guess we fill Eska in on our day plans.
You are now aware of the day plans.
I feel aware of the day plans.
Correct.
Hang on a moment, everybody. Druidcraft, what's the weather going to be like?
You can actually hear a little bit already. Kind of coming down. You couldn't tell what it was. It is already pretty lousy out there. And you get the impression it is going to be very wet, very windy today.
I would bundle up. It's pretty, put your waterproof cloaks on. It's going to be a wet one.
You get this kind of like just this sort of like really kind of look on Savari's face, and he just goes marching off into the storm.
Clara unstraps her shield and holds it above her head.
So,
I'll just have my cloak. I pretty much just go out the way I look, just with the hood up.
I'm going to go out hood down because I can't play a character that doesn't also love the rain. Don't know how to.
This is not in you.
No, it feels wrong. Maybe one day I'll really challenge myself. But yeah,
You'll hate the rain.
yeah.
so
I'll play a male character who hates the rain.
and doesn't use a bow.
That's yeah.
He does. He just hits things with a bow. Physically.
Yeah.
So you get to the cave entrance, and water is streaming down into the cave. You can see the trees are swaying pretty dramatically. The rain's pretty heavy. The wind is up. It's going to be a pretty sad trudge to the gates. And of course, it doesn't get better once you get through the gates, but So there you go. You are approaching the south gate. You are soaked to the bone. I mean, it's not a long walk, but in these conditions, it feels 2 to 3 times as long. Everything's heavier. Armor is chafing a little bit in uncomfortable ways. The constant sound of large raindrops hitting armor it's kind of sort of numbed your brains a little bit, because you just get that constant sound of water on metal. You can all consider yourselves miserable, apart from Eska, who seems really quite chipper.
One level of miserable.
Yes, you all have one level of miserable, apart from Eska, who has one level of jolly.
I'm enjoying thinking about Silverius armor chafing. To make your own entertainment.
Yeah, it would be right around lunchtime.
Okay.
All right, guess we head on in, and we first stop. We should probably just grab Cater to come along with us. Talk to Ingfrin.
I mean, it makes sense since we're right here.
The guards just sort of barely acknowledge you as you enter. They don't really, they're kind of used to your coming and going at this point, so they, they don't try to stop you. They don't make any attempt to engage in small talk or anything. They look pretty miserable too. Yeah, so you're able to go into the dried bunch, where obviously the weather's a little quieter.
When Silvarius steps in out of the rain, he kind of like angles his head kind of up and does that shaking.
Hey!
What?
Watch where you're flinging that water.
My apologies.
You hear a startled noise from the far side of the room, and then the sound of a something glass shattering on the floor. Oh no, I've done it again. Clean it up, Cater, clean it up. So glad of you choosing now to drop in and cause my apprentice to throw things around everywhere. You look miserable, the lot of you.
Hardly the best weather outside. However, Cater probably dropped that on his own.
I think he was surprised by the young dwarf lady's outburst. Yes, sorry, no, it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to hear from you guys today. It's been a while.
Been but a day, has it?
Well, last time you came by, I think I wasn't here. I was off gathering more supplies. So I think you might have talked to Ingfrin, but I wasn't here.
It's good to see you back. For we needed you this day.
You need me?
Yes, we need you.
And he sort of, you see him kind of hold himself a little taller, which is not easy for him. He's a bit of a weird, gangly type of guy, and never seems that he can quite straighten everything out. But he says, is that okay? And he kind of looks over at Ingfrin, who just sort of sighs heavily and turns away to continue working on some potion or other. What do you need my help with?
We had quite a day.
And Silvarius pulls out the paper that we had gotten from the purveyor's abode, and he hands it over to Cater.
Oh.
We found this in our journey in the caves. It was on the table of the purveyor, the one we first encountered whilst you were acquainting yourselves with the kobolds.
The guy with the tentacles.
He's never met you.
No, he hasn't.
We have reason to believe he has information of this sort for all of us.
And he looks over to...
It says here I'm clumsy.
pretty accurate.
What do you mean it's pretty accurate? That seems a little harsh. And cowardly. No. And he sort of scrunches the paper up a bit and throws it back at you, Silverius.
Can I catch
With
it?
not much force, so yes, easy enough to catch.
Is Ingfred paying us any mind as we're talking, or is he just going about his business?
He looks like once it was clear that you weren't paying customers, he's kind of gone back to work, basically.
We've already paid. We gave this man a chimera.
You're not actively paying customers. So
Well, true.
he's gone back to working on the potion instead.
Catching the paper, Silvaris is also just going to say, after, because Cater seems a little bit hurt, and just,
Does not mention your better qualities. Don't worry, Cater. You are not just clumsy and cowardly.
It does say that you're really good at alchemy.
Let's say that.
Fine trade.
That's true.
And you are with Hand of Aegis. A great honor, if you ask me.
Is that what you're calling yourselves now? I like that. That's a good ring.
But you, Ingfred, would like to speak with you. I know our relationship is more business than anything.
Indeed.
But a few questions.
Very
How
well.
knowledgeable are you in the arcane?
And he sort of also puffs himself up a bit, and you realize he's actually a slightly more imposing figure than you gave him credit for. Most of the time, in fairness, you see him, he is sort of bent over some potion or other working on it. But he sort of stands a little tall and he says, I am well educated and have spent my life working in the alchemical arts. But beyond that, I have done extensive reading to ensure that I am aware of things I should be aware of. Why do you ask?
In our journey, we discovered we are being observed. Now, a means of protecting ourselves from this is what I am after. Or knowledge thereof.
Do you have any idea how you're being tracked?
One can, at this juncture, only assume through magic. That or a spy.
Well, how well do you trust each other? Is it possible that one of you is working for him?
Highly unlikely.
Well, if you can rule that out, then you would need to find some way to block his magic, since that would be the only alternative. There are a number of methods of observing people from afar using divination magic. You would need some sort of magical counter to this. There is, I believe, a spell that would serve the purpose, though it is one you would need to continuously cast in order to maintain an obstruction. Not a spell that I am familiar with. It is not in my wheelhouse. You would need an abjurist to perform this. Someone who is experienced in that field, most likely. But there is a spell, non-detection, which blocks magical observation. It is not an easy spell, not one that just anybody can learn. You do need to be a well-practiced arcane user in order to have access to this knowledge, but... And he sort of stops and thinks for a moment and says, it is also theoretically possible to capture the essence of that spell and combine it into some form of worn element, an amulet, even armor, and imbue that, enchant it into the item, thus creating a perpetual effect, though the creation of such an item would take perhaps days, if not weeks, of dedicated focus on to imbue such a powerful enchantment into an item such as this would be difficult, would likely be very expensive. Theoretically possible, however.
Costly in both money and time.
Indeed.
Did Eska come in, or is she still hanging outside?
Yeah, she did not come in.
Oh. I feel like I would go grab her. Knowing she's magical.
Asuka, come inside and be a part of this.
While Eska is tying her shoes outside, would Claire have any knowledge of a spell that sounded familiar to what Ingfrin was talking about?
Make an Arcana check.
A 9. With a +6. Like,
You know of
Starting
such
off strong.
things. You're not sure.
Ingfrin,
Yes?
from your knowledge of this type of magic, is it something that can be done for a long period of time? Can it be done over a group? Even if we don't have magic, if there's anything you know about the way the magic may work, that we may be able to use to help at least make it more difficult on somebody trying to, look in on us, might be helpful.
Unless you're dealing with a very potent magic user. I do not believe that a permanent means of observation could be put in place unless some sort of magical item were crafted that would allow such a thing. I suspect that is beyond most practitioners anyway. This would be incredibly rare to be able to offer such insight. My understanding is that you are unlikely to be able to maintain this sort of viewing for more than an hour. Maybe even that is a stretch. These are difficult magics we're talking about. They challenge the mind. They're very taxing spells. When you are trying to project your vision across the astral plane to locate people or a person or a place, however it may be, it does take a toll on the mage involved. So it would be impractical and dangerous to attempt such an endeavor for long periods of time.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. Unfortunately, I don't think magical defense is going to be an option for us in the near future.
That is unfortunate. If you have gained the attention of someone undesirable, yes, that is most unfortunate.
Your shop is not equipped with such capabilities, is it?
Alas, no. This is more powerful. No, I'm capable of powerful things. But it is just not my field of expertise. As I said, I am most experienced in herbalism and alchemy. For something like this, you would need someone more experienced in abjuration magic. When you're looking to protect, and that is what you probably need to seek out, and that is not my field of expertise, unfortunately.
Cater, do you know if anybody at the academy could help with this?
Yeah, probably. There was sort of most people go to the academy to study alchemy. Obviously, that's its primary focus, but it does have, there are those who teach other disciplines. There's obviously other academies elsewhere, so some students will come there and realize that alchemy is not their calling, and they try to encourage everyone to sort of open their minds. So there's one of the pedagogues there, pedagogue Icon, I think. She was the one who taught me a small amount about abjuration. I'm afraid it didn't stick, but I at least am aware of it.
What was your standing with her? Did you get along well with her?
She could be a little haughty, I suppose, but and he sort of glances briefly at Ingfrin and says, I've been able to find my way around that in the past. I could probably do so again. Yeah, I mean, I think she'd be willing to meet with me.
Okay. So would you be willing to help us in this?
As long as Ingfrim is willing to, let me go, that would be fine. And Ingfrim just sort of looks and says, if it will stop this inane chatter so I can get on with my actual work, then yes, I am willing to let you go.
Just side question. Have we ever seen any other customers come into the Dried Bunch?
Roll a history check.
12.
You don't recall any.
Yeah, okay. Are there any healing potions for sale? Is there like a healing potion shelf? Just kind of glance over.
The fridge by the register.
Right.
Ingfrin,
Get it chilled.
Gatorades
You ask-
in different colors.
do you say Caterades?
The
Eli,
origins.
Eli, if you could work on a T-shirt that says Caterade, that'd be swell.
I would wear that. So
I would 100% wear that.
It shows a guy, shows him running with two of them in his hand.
nice.
Ingfrim sort of turns around as you ask and says, no, I haven't had time to work on healing potions. I've been too busy trying to dissect and tame these elements from the Chimera. It left quite a mess in here, and it has been difficult to extract the essence I was hoping for. It's still very much a work in progress. And so, unfortunately, no. All other work has been suspended until I can extract the essence from the beast.
Fair enough.
Yes, it is. And Inframe sort of turns around and starts going back, and you can see actually looking over there. You hadn't really been paying attention, but there's a giant. One of the Chimera's heads, the goat head, is like on the table next to him, and he's just sort of like poking at it. And there's a large number of vials and beakers and various things over there. There's the disturbing array of colors in those beakers. You see what looks to be an eyeball in one of them. That now that you realize it's sort of kind of looking in your direction, and you're not sure if that's coincidence or if it's looking at you somehow. It's a little disconcerting.
Did you need
Before
something,
we go,
Sylvaris?
for you to not tie your shoes for so long,
Well,
we were talking of
they got very
Gene.
long laces.
Before we go, Ingfrin, some components for spells.
Yes.
I am in need of incense and herbs. Some of the finer assortment.
Right. What purpose is this for?
A familiar
Ah, I see. How much are you looking to purchase?
enough for 2 expenditures.
Right. Very well. Cater, you know where to find that stuff. Right. Yes, of course. Sorry. And he starts scurrying around. Ingfrin's not looking anymore, but you just hear this. No, not that drawer. The one underneath. Without even looking, he was able to detect the wrong one was being used. But eventually, he seems to have satisfied Ingfrin. 10 gold for the lot there, please.
I look at Cosette.
She pulls out the group gold. Give it to you. Just a reminder before I forget, we had those citrine gems as well.
Were we planning on selling them?
Oh, I don't know. I just didn't want
I don't
us
know.
to forget about them. I had forgotten about them.
Oh,
I have no component use for gems.
Did we get a value for those, Phil, or no?
No one's attempted to value them, so no, not yet.
Would I have a ballpark if I looked at them?
Roll investigation.
8.
You aren't overly familiar with citrine as a rule. It's not something that you have particularly dabbled with. So, just ballparking, 3 of them are on the smaller side. You would guess probably somewhere in the sort of the 15 to 30 gold range. One of them is substantially larger and would probably go for 2-3 times that amount. So far, you can mark down you have your components. And you now have a cater in tow. Was there anything we wanted to do before we head over to the academy? It's over on the other side of town, so it's a bit of a trek.
going to meet with Kelly.
Oh, okay. That's not very far at all.
Pocket my incense and stuff and just thanking friend.
He barely acknowledges you.
Gets a
So you head over to the shrine, and you find Kelly in there.
I'll go in too, and I'll drop a collection.
Welcome back. Thank you, Badur. As always, appreciated. And there's sort of like a conspiratorial nod towards Silvarius.
return.
I trust you're all keeping well.
Well enough.
Good. To what do I owe the pleasure?
Have you received any word yet from the Volrath about Duarte?
Nothing since the last one I got. No, unfortunately not. Were you still expecting more, do you think?
Possibly.
Righto. Well, I'll certainly keep my eyes out.
I'll look at Silvarius, and I'll ask. I want to ask him about the other thing too.
And kind of raise an eyebrow. Oh, the other thing. Well, now you have to tell me.
And the shrine's empty, right? No one else is here.
You look around the shrine and don't see anybody. It's theoretically possible someone's downstairs, but unlikely. It's not really somewhere people tend to go. The commoner folks stay above ground as a rule.
Straight out with it.
What do you know, if anything, of the velvet glove?
Sort of looks at you for a moment and strokes his beard. You got yourselves in some trouble, have you? That's why are you asking?
It's a name we recently encountered. We have gotten ourselves into various forms of trouble. We are trying to get a clearer picture
As far as I know, we haven't involved ourselves with them, but we've just heard the name.
They're well, they're thieves and outlaws and vagabonds, really. It's probably the politest way I can say it. If you want to get something done and you want to keep it away from prying eyes, that's when you turn to the Velvet Glove.
They're like the Thieves Guild in the town.
Yes, although it's probably worth pointing out that their presence here is not as influential as it is over on the island. They have a presence here, I'm sure. I don't have any dealings with them myself, but I have no doubt that they would have agents here. Why wouldn't they? This is a major, trading hub for Drakesburg. So, yeah, they probably have some people here. But most of the work goes on over there. And you can see he looks a little uncomfortable at the moment.
Oh, have you had any dealings with them?
I mean, it's not like they go around with a big sash on them or anything. So, I don't know. For all I know, you could all be members. But
Come on now.
well, I don't know, do I? The whole point of a group like this is that they are working everywhere, they hide in plain sight half the time.
Would Griffin have visited here and been part of that as well?
I'm not saying... I'm not...
You need to have more faith in the Order.
No, you misunderstand. For one thing, I don't think that they're all bad necessarily. The ones that do the stealing and stuff, not so great. But I've heard rumors of them being able to get access to, hard to reach supplies for people, or retrieve items that were taken by other thieves and return them back to their proper owner. I don't know if they have a code or if there's just, if the coin is right, they'll do the job. I'm not sure. But I don't think they're all bad.
Do they deal in like assassination, drugs, those sorts of things?
Some of them might. I wouldn't put it past them. It's difficult here in town with the way the satraps are. They rule their areas of town how they see fit. The Nagra try, but if one of those families wants to have a certain influence in that part of town, then they're able to do that. To an extent, those portions of town, it's the satraps who set the law, not the Nagra. So, could there be drug trade? Yes. Could there be assassinations? Probably. People die in mysterious ways in accidents. It happens all the time. People sometimes accidentally trip and fall on their shears. It's a thing.
You say there are potential good in them, or not all bad. Is there division amongst their ranks? Perhaps factions?
I find it hard to believe that there couldn't be in a group like that. Just because, I mean, honestly, I think if you look at any organization, once it reaches a certain critical mass, there are going to be people who don't agree with the way things are run. And as soon as you have that, someone is going to want to make changes. I'm sure that there are members of the Nagra who disagree with how things are run, and they are trying to make changes. I am sure that the Drake's Warden have the same thing. Maybe the Order has something similar. I don't know. I'm not privy to more of the inner workings, but it could theoretically be possible.
Or it's just scoffs.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'd like to be wrong. But, yeah, it would not surprise me if there are multiple factions within something like the Velvet Glove.
That could very well work in our favor.
How so?
Warring factions sometimes divulge more information. If there are, two of them could very well be used against them, should we need it.
That makes sense. Well, just be careful who you align yourself with. It's a slippery slope, and it could go very badly wrong.
Well, I don't necessarily know if we have any plans on involved with them as of right now. Just a group we had heard about. I thought I had heard about something about them before, but I didn't really catch anything outside of just maybe a name, and I didn't really care to find out any more. So thank you.
Aye.
I'll give them that. Based on what I've heard, they rarely fail when they're set a task. So whoever they've got working for them, they know what they're doing.
Well, thank you again for your help.
Well, I'm here when needed. If I get any information, I'll try to let you know. But as you know, you can always come here, and chances are I'll be here. If not, every now and then I'll leave it to Gerda, but usually it's me.
Where is good?
I think last I knew, can't remember which town he said he was going to, but a new acolyte who was in need of some training. So he was going to spend some time educating for a while. He did say he might bring him back here too, so we'll see.
You trust him?
Do I trust Gerda?
Aye.
Absolutely. We've well, we're obviously both firm followers of Moradin. We have spent a lot of time together. So yeah, I have no questions about Gerda or his loyalties.
Good. You trust him, then I do as well. Thank you, Kelly.
You're very welcome. Hope you find the answers you're looking for.
Me as well. There may be more information coming to you. Anything you receive, keep until we return.
Easy enough. Was there anything else you wanted before you left, Silvarius?
About Riskin. Where has he been staying?
You know, I meant to bring that up to you. I don't know.
This is like what face?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be in there too, and I mean, I have a what did you just say, face as well?
So, here's the thing. You dropped him off, and he was here, and then he wasn't. Not 100% sure when he left. Didn't leave a note or anything. Just must have slipped out. Gone.
At night, in the morning?
Yep, probably one of those. But, I mean, I didn't see signs of a struggle, so I just assumed that he decided he didn't like it here and was going to go off and, I don't know. Just been talking about the town in general. Asked some questions about various bits and pieces. We talked a little bit about you guys as well. Obviously you were the ones who saved him, so I'm naturally a bit curious there. But yeah, not long after, poof, off he went.
And how long ago? Just this prior night?
It was right after your trial finished. The other folks from the order were here. Maybe he just slipped out when all of that was happening, and they were leaving. that would have been a good time to get out, I suppose. But yeah, he's been gone since then.
I'm more concerned about this.
Oh. Well, I mean, there's not a lot I could do really. I don't have any way of keeping tabs on him.
Do the town guards keep a record of those who leave and go?
Not that I've seen. They're kind of useless, to be honest. They just stand there and vaguely wave at people most of the time.
Well, we're gonna have to ponder about that.
We should bring
Let
that
it.
up.
Yeah. We'll let everybody know. Nod and leave.
Shall we grab something to eat before we move to the academy?
Claire nods vigorously.
A less vigorous nod from Solarius.
I think you know your options in South Delzimer by now.
I'm not even going to ask. I'll just start walking towards the
just no floor
Traveler's
cheese.
Respite. Traveler's Respite, I assume.
So you stroll over. Well, you probably go quite quickly actually, because it's still miserable out there. Over to the Traveler's Respite.
Did we ever encounter the gentleman sitting on the bench?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that Gethin or is it just some random guy?
I thought that was Gethin.
I don't know that you've spoken to that person, no.
Somebody should at least check on him to make sure he's alive. He's been sitting there for a long time.
As you walk past, he just sort of casually waves. And you can see, much like Eska, he seems very content just kind of sitting out in the rain. And you can see he's sitting there. He's not alone. He does have a, what looks to be some sort of owl perched on his shoulder that seems perfectly content to be getting wet as well.
What kind of clothing is, just walking by him, what kind of clothing is he wearing? Just like pretty neutral?
Yeah, so he's a halfling, blonde hair, surprisingly not very curly, which is unusual for a halfling. But yeah, fairly neutral tones, sort of greens and browns. Clothes that are not, they are practical gear, not fashionable.
I'm just going to take note of that and keep, walking past till we all get to the respite.
Okay, and so you head in. The weather obviously kind of dies down a bit as you get inside. And as soon as you get in, you hear shouting from over by the bar. Right, hold on. Everybody, please shake off your cloaks. Hang them up, please. I'm not having this. Don't get my in all messed up with your wet. Take off your boots. And looking specifically at Silverius, who, having walked through between the trees, your shoes are absolutely caked in mud.
Looking down at his feet, he acknowledges they're a little dirty. He'll sit down and undo his greaves.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. How are my favorite customers doing then?
I'm gonna destroy the what's rested in my flask, and then I'm gonna say, Dwarven ale, fill it up, please.
Spirit. Right. What about everyone else? Usual, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
He potters off, and you hear lots of clanking and stuff. And a few moments later, comes out with a tray just absolutely full of a variety of drinks, some dwarf ale, some water for a couple of you, and then just one giant loaf of bread. It's not even cut up, just a loaf of bread, and then some steaming bowls of very thick-looking. You're not sure which side of the stew soup line it falls, but it's somewhere right on that tipping point between the two. Stoop. Yes, exactly. Well, eat up. Unfortunately, we don't have our musician in this time of day, but just enjoy yourselves and maybe just hum between bites if you're feeling the lack of sound. The stoop is good, as is often the case.
Is it stupid?
It's you know what you've eaten here quite a bit, and as a rule, the food is to a pretty high standard. You feel like you're getting what you pay for.
Reason why we come here.
Well, it's also because the half-orc who runs the bucket of blood is not very friendly and has a habit of throwing people out.
And the floor cheese.
And the floor too.
Oh, geez, yeah. I'm just gonna briefly inquire about
The falconer over there, is that Gethin?
That's Gethin. Keeps to himself mostly. Bit of an odd fellow, if you ask me. Trying to remember the word he calls for it. Well, anyway, he's got like outside his house, he's got a string of little houses for birds. It's very odd. He's got a couple of different ones, I think. He's got that owl that sits with him a lot, and then there's some. I think there's a hawk and a couple of falcons, something like that. Very odd sort, but seems friendly enough, I suppose.
Do many visit him through the day? Just curious.
Make a persuasion roll.
9.
I don't know that I've necessarily paid so much attention. I'm usually in here keeping fine folks like yourself fed and entertained. It's not really my place to be watching the neighborhood, as it were.
And for that we appreciate.
He takes a big bite out of the lamb.
No, I was gonna ask if the Sarat caravan is back to town yet.
Not that I've heard. Usually some of them come in and have a tipple. Not the not the family members themselves. They tend to keep their tipples to themselves. But some of the guards and such, the lower folk will deign to enter my establishment. But no, I don't believe I've seen them.
So, yeah, as I'm eating, I'll just kind of like casually say, Riskin's gone.
What do you mean Riskin's gone?
Gone. Disappeared. He left, I guess. Didn't say anything. I'm not looking up, I'm just like eating, barely like... I'm more conversating with the food than anything else.
He apparently just left town towards the end of the trials. As Bardur mentioned, no reason why. Kind of frustrates me for all we did for him. And worries me for his potential, yet guided.
It feels a bit suspicious that he would just go off without saying anything to us.
It does. He had no home to return to. Not entirely sure what to make of it all, currently.
Where, from here, does anyone need to go?
Were we gonna head to the academy after lunch?
Cater,
Right. You want me to lead you there, presumably? I can do that.
yes, if you would, please.
It sounds like the weather may have died down a bit, so we're not going to get completely soaked through again. That's small mercy. Though I imagine your boots are going to keep getting muddy. He leads you guys across town. It takes probably about 20 minutes to get across. It's an area that you haven't really... It's in the same vague direction as the bowyer that you visited a while back. You kind of, you hear Academy of Alchemical Arts, and you kind of build it up a little bit in your head. You imagine it's going to be a sort of like large, sprawling, high-towered campus with, sort of like extravagant, large stone buildings, huge, like wrought iron gates, and when you get to it, it is not that. Instead, it is what appears to be a collection of rather flimsy-looking shacks that show burn marks in places. There's not really a sort of a clear entrance. But, I mean, you do kind of see there's like a cluster of these sort of ramshackle shacks. And then at the heart of them, there is one reasonable-looking stone building. And that is sort of, Cato leads you to that. And it has a, sort of like a big sign across the top that says Academy of Alchemical Arts. He says, okay, so we go in here, and they should be able to, assuming that Icon's not involved in anything right now, hopefully they're able to get her. So just hold on for a moment. And Cato kind of knocks on the door. A young halfling chap opens it. Says, "Hello. Yes, I was hoping to speak with Pedagogue Icon, former student Cater. She should remember me. Just if she needs reminding, let her know I was the one who burnt down the 9th shed a couple of years ago." And there's a sort of a brief moment of recognition, and then the halfling nips inside. We don't have to talk about the 9th shed, it's fine. It probably won't come up in the conversation now anyway, so it's not something you need to be primed for. A couple of minutes pass. Eventually, door opens. A slender human with short grey hair, hazel eyes. Claire and Silvaris you would recognize as almost certainly a small familiar, looks to be some sort of songbird, just sitting on her shoulder, and wearing very nice clothes. Ah, Cater, you have returned. And there's a definite hint of a question there, and a raised eyebrow. Pedagogue Icon, and thank you for finding time. Actually, it's not me so much. My friends here would like to ask you some questions. You have friends, and they have questions, right? Let's go over to shed number 4, and she leads you across to one of the sheds that just has a 4 sort of scrawled on it in what you think might be charcoal. Just sort of like drawn rather crudely onto a wooden door, and she leads you inside, and it's the smell is intense. There's sulfur and other strange things. It's like Cassette, especially. Your eyes are like watering. This is a great assault on your senses. It's very unpleasant. You have not experienced anything this unpleasant before. It's really out of your wheelhouse significantly. The others, I mean, certainly wouldn't have experienced, but for you especially, just because of your journey here thus far, this is not something you would have encountered. So it's definitely a little uncomfortable. Yes, I think this will be fine. Maybe leave the door open though. It's not very well. The air doesn't circulate well in here, but it does allow us some privacy. How may I be of assistance? I am Pedagogue Icon. Forgive me, I'm one of the teachers here at the academy. And to whom am I speaking?
I am Silvarius Karutrok.
I see.
And these are my companions.
I'm Claire Honeyhill.
I'll just do a little, like, salute. That's about it.
Master Dwarf.
Yeah, Cosette will pull her hand away from her nose, kind of try to steady herself enough to introduce herself just briefly.
Very good. Well, it is a pleasure to meet you all. I trust Cater did not burn down any of your buildings?
None that we own, I don't think.
And you see her sort of visibly looks relieved. And just sort of nods at him and says, "Good work, well done. Your skills have improved." So how may I be of service?
We were informed that you may be more aware or capable. We are searching for forms of protection in a arcane sense, trying to avoid spies, perhaps.
I see. So not looking for... My initial assumption was you were looking for some sort of physical barrier, but this is something quite different. You mean something that would protect you from what? Some sort of divination?
Most likely.
So you think someone is watching you? They are most likely scrying. Difficult. There are means, certainly.
We understand it takes great skill and, unfortunately, is quite expensive.
Well, the sort of spell you need in and of itself is not too costly, though, if I recall correctly, there is a somewhat pricey material component that is used each time it is cast. The spell in question I'm thinking of that would protect from scrying is non-detection. Unless I'm misremembering, it does consume a small portion of diamond dust, which obviously I need not point out is not cheap. So yes, there is a cost involved, but the spell is lasts for 8 hours, so you need only cast it once during your normal day. Would cover most of your waking hours, as a rule. Twice, I suppose, if you're being thorough. You don't need to maintain focus upon it. But if you were trying to do this every day, oh goodness, you're looking at, I don't know, at least 50 gold's worth per day to maintain that sort of... It's a spell known to me. I have familiarity with it, but my concern is the regularity you would need this for. There's a number of ways that you could approach this. A wizard such as myself could create a scroll that someone who is trained in the arcane could read, but that scroll would cost, factoring in the time it would take and the components required, 600 gold per scroll. That becomes unfeasible, I fear.
I would assume that is one casting.
Correct. That would be just one use of the spell, so would only cover you for 8 hours. So you would be looking at upkeep of some 1,200 gold per day to maintain this level of protection.
Incredibly unfeasible. And what in the way of enchanted items might you have?
I don't have access to any right now. It is something that could be created. It would take time and rather a lot of gold.
We are looking for something in an expedited fashion. You mentioned physical barrier. Are there such things? I understand that arcane can be diminished by some forms of metal.
I mean, yes, certainly. Lead is able to interfere with certain types of divination, but unless you're planning on sitting inside a box made of lead, that seems impractical. Realistically, I think I could. The cost to create an item quicker means that you would have to pay for someone to assist me. I could work on this outside of my regular hours. Normally, the creation of an item such as this would take as long as 6 months. Now, it may take not as long as 6 months, but it could take as long as 6 months. To reduce the amount of time, I would need to draft in some of my fellow pedagogues here, who are also learned enough in abjuration. We do have those available, but obviously the more people you bring in, the more compensation you're going to have to provide. At which point the cost could potentially spiral out of control.
Is this something that could be learned, or you could teach one of us potentially, or do you need to be a certain type of person to do that?
The spell itself is one that can be learned by those who are trained in the arcane. Are any of you trained in the arcane besides? And she sort of looks at Kater and just says, "Are any of you trained in the arcane?"
I am a little.
I
I don't have much experience.
see. And then you also, Master Dragonborn?
An element of my training is in the arcane. However, I'm unaware of this spell currently. I feel it is beyond my current reach.
Okay, let's think about this then. So, if we are to try to speed things up, I could request assistance from, honestly, the two best abjurists would be the Chancellor and Deputy Chancellor. Though, understandably, their skills do not run cheap. One thing that could be done to assist would be to obtain a large quantity of diamond dust. That would make it easier for us to speed the process up, because it will be involved in the creation of such an item. I feel I should point out, however, that typically this item would protect one person. If we were to, I'm assuming you would want to try to protect all of you. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Perhaps we can find some way of doing that. I would need to ponder that, but we would need a large quantity of diamond dust, most likely more than you would be able to find easily here in town. Perhaps you would be able to. There's a gnome settlement. They do a lot of excavation there, and a lot of crafting and so on. What's its name? Hold on, let me think. I don't go there myself very often.
It wouldn't happen to be Badger Down, would it?
Yes, that sounds familiar. Yes, Badger Down.
And Claire just kind of looks like she tries to make eye contact, like kind of wide-eyed with the rest of the party, or at least the ones that were Cassette and Silverius that were looking at the prophecy books with them.
They're a very creative and industrious group down there, and they don't get a lot of visitors. I believe the journey has become rather fraught. I seem to remember someone saying that some caravans had failed to return recently, but I believe they would have access to large quantities as they are perpetually mining and would be a more likely source than anywhere here in town, certainly, for the kind of quantities we need. We would need, realistically, for something of this magnitude, probably 3 or 4 pounds of diamond dust, which is, again, not cheap. But maybe you can find some way to make an arrangement with them that would be suitable. I'm not sure. That's really over to you. But if you're able to obtain that much material, I can certainly try to find others to assist with the creation of such an item, or items, I suppose it would be. That is theoretically something we could do. In the meantime, I will point out when someone scries on you, which it sounds like is what's happening, there is a physical presence where you are located that indicates they are scrying. However, it is not visible to normal eyes. You would need to see things that cannot normally be seen. I don't know if that's something you are capable of doing, but if you can find a way to see into the invisible, you would know, because the item through which you scry must be close to the target, no more than 10 or 15 feet from them, in order to actually be able to observe. So that is worth bearing in mind. It would at least give you an idea that you are being watched, and if you can see it, you can destroy that item. It would end the spell. It does not prevent them from casting it again each time. It's a small orb that glows, but only if you can see into the invisible can you see it. But yes, you could stop the spell immediately by destroying it. I hope that helps.
That is good to know.
And you can see Cater through this looks sort of... He's kind of a bit slack-jawed. I had no idea that you knew all of this. I mean, I knew you were good, but this is powerful stuff. And she sort of says, well, you don't get to teach at an academy without knowing a thing or two. I wish I could do more for you now, but unfortunately this is a very large undertaking and requires preparation. Hopefully it is something that you can figure out. You're more than welcome to return if you have any questions. Unfortunately, I have another class starting soon over in the rebuilt 9th shed. So I'll go tend to them for now. It's good meeting you all.
Before you leave, I have a question.
Certainly.
So, if there's a physical manifestation, you can see, or the scryer can see and hear what's going on. If the communication isn't verbal, like if we used a spell to communicate telepathically, they couldn't be aware of that, correct?
I think they would not be able to. I don't believe there's any way. I know there are spells to be able to intercept telepathic communication. However, I do not believe there is a way to project that through the scrying orb.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, at least. So yes, that could well be an option for you.
No further questions.
Well,
Your Honor.
very well. Well, I wish you luck. If you're able to get this together, please do come back. Obviously, it would be it would be actually rather thrilling to have to try to create such items. Cost is, I'm sure, negotiable. We'll try to figure out something that is appropriate. Given that there's 5 of you, we can try to figure something out. And Keita sort of looks a little hopeful and then disheartened very quickly as he realizes that he wasn't among the 5 listed. I will consult with the Chancellor and Deputy Chancellor and see. We'll try to come up with some sort of arrangement. Obviously, this isn't really. If you were in Neverwinter, they have the Academy of Abjuration Arts. That would be far more suitable for you. However, that is thousands of miles away. It might be something they just had on hand. Alas. Here, we are alchemists primarily, but we will do what we can to help. And with that, she swishes out, and the songbird sort of hovers up briefly and seems to give each of you a little bow, and then flits out of the open doorway. Well, she didn't mention the cost of this, for like how much she's going to charge you, but I can guarantee you it's going to be a lot. So I don't know how much money you have available, but you might need more. This is 3 of the most powerful mages, as far as I'm aware, in Delzimer, that you'd be recruiting to help create these items. So be prepared to spend a lot of money to make these come true. I'm not saying it's not worth it, I'm just saying it's going to cost you a lot.
As one might expect. Now the question is whether or not we need it truly.
Well, knowing your enemy and knowing everything you have going on is strong strategical advantage.
Aye.
It seems like we would have to basically divert everything that we're doing currently to get this done.
Still deciding whether that's worth it. Up to 6 months is quite a window. But it is good to know we have options.
Silverius may be right. Do we actually need protection all the time? Or would something like 8 hours be enough time for us to, I don't know, in the future plan to do something about him? I mean, if he's gone, then there's no issue.
It's something that we could strategically use if we needed it to, or tactically use. But the problem is knowing whenever he's watching us.
Like Claire said, we remove him from that equation. Then we don't have to worry about it anymore. That being the question.
Yeah, maybe just for now we need to... I mean, maybe we look into getting these resources, but, you know, maybe just be mindful if we have conversations that may be sensitive to maybe have them through other means.
Icon mentioned lead, in fact, can block it. I had contemplated with the remains of the Pickled Quipper now ours, perhaps cost depending a lead basement. That could be far re-fetched, however. I know nothing of construction.
What about trying to see things that are invisible?
I haven't those capabilities.
The professor did mention that there is a manifestation, it's just invisible to us.
And he locks onto some form of object too. Did we have anything that he's given us, or is he just picking something at random that he knows?
Would Claire have any basic knowledge of the requirements for scrying?
Let's find out.
A 15 this time.
You have some knowledge of scrying. Now that you kind of know what it is. So scrying requires a very valuable focus, something in excess of 1,000 gold pieces. Often it is something like a crystal ball or a special type of mirror. It is a ritual to be able to perform this. So it usually takes about 10 minutes to even begin scrying. And then the user can focus on something that is known to them in some way. It's better if they have something belonging to the person they're targeting on. They're more likely to succeed. But basically, the more familiar the caster is with the target, the more likely to succeed the spell is.
The papers. The papers he had on all of us, they had pictures on them. Or at least Cater's did. I would imagine ours did too. When scrying, you need something like a likeness or a piece of hair or something that gives you a connection. It's easier that way. You can do it with just a basic knowledge of the person, but it's harder. And the fact that none of us have noticed at any point that anything has been watching us makes me think that he does have some kind of powerful connection to us.
Cassette, your hand just sort of like subconsciously like goes up to your hair, and you have a weird flashback to a dream or something where you remember, like you have some of your hairs just don't grow quite as long on one side. It's just you're never quite sure why it is, but for some reason it just didn't grow out quite right. And just not even, like I said, unconsciously, you just your hand just goes up there, and simultaneously by door, you're sort of thinking about this, and you kind of pick at your thumb and look at where the nail is always sort of chipped off a little.
Is she remember it clear enough to, I guess, kind of make that connection?
Straight intelligence.
12.
No, I don't think so in this case. It's just, you sort of have this weird moment of thinking about the fact that your hair grows weird, but there isn't anything concrete that you kind of latch onto from that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask, like, would I even notice anything, or just be like one of those moments where, like, weird stuff pops in your head?
Same for you, please. Straight
Same
intelligence.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, 17.
You have a moment where you're just kind of like idly picking at your thumb, and then you have this weird flashback where you bite off your thumbnail and like toss it across the room. You're in this cabin. Everything's blurry. Like you can't see everything properly. Like looking, you can't see people's faces properly, but you do see one face isn't blurry, and that's Cosette's. Standing near you. There's 2 or 3 others who seem to be in a group with you, and then opposite you, you're throwing something. Again, the face is blurry, but you see enough to see something rather unpleasant. There's, from here, just in this brief moment, it almost looks decaying, but certainly old, haggard. And then, as you try to focus on it, the memory fades.
Do I have any idea if this connects with the situation, or just sort of like one of those just...
You think that it's weird because you don't remember that happening. You don't remember any chain of events that involves you and Cassette being in a cabin with 3 other people, but then you look at your thumb and you can't explain why that thumbnail always seems chipped. So yes, there is a certain degree of something feels weird and wrong.
So I don't want to take this out of do a metagamey thing here, but so I would feel somewhat compelled though to mention this.
It's freaking you out to the point where it seems it's unusual enough that you think yes, it may be
Okay.
useful information.
Okay. Did I notice Cassette have a moment?
Probably not, because you were having your own moment.
Okay, that's fair.
It's entirely possible that I think. Let me just double check here. I don't think Silveris would have picked up on anything. No, probably not. But Eska would have, and probably Claire too. Actually, would have seen them sort of just drift off a little bit.
I'm gonna look at my thumb and be like, all right, something's bothering me.
Claire's gonna reach out to Cassette and just quietly ask her, "Are you all right?"
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So I don't know how to explain this. I keep having this thought that something has happened before, and Cosette was there, but it's just this connection with whenever there's a thought about possibly whenever you're talking about having a connection with a body part, there is something that I remember having this. It's almost like a dream about missing my thumbnail, and this thumbnail never really quite grows back, and I don't know what that has to do with anything, but there's just this really weird feeling right now about just this connection of this dream, which seems real, but I don't remember anything ever actually happening.
I don't remember anything like that, but yeah, for some reason my reaction was just when she just was talking about that, without even thinking about it, my hand kind of went to my hair, and this is always and she kind of shows the part of her hair that's kind of a little bit shorter, so maybe you're onto something.
Well, there was because you were there, nobody else was there here. That was here. You're the only other person that I've seen, and I don't know. There was this decaying old body. I don't know whether it was an undead or what it was, but I felt something very uneasy that was there. And I feel like I've had 1 or 2 moments since all this has happened where I've felt things, seen things. I don't know how to explain it, but there's just some weirdness that happens every so often. I don't know what this has to do with that thing or what, but...
Well, I don't really have any memory of what you're talking about, but with everything else that's happened to us, I don't think we can rule out that may be part of either the purveyor's plan or somehow he may be involved.
Does anybody else have any idea what this might be? I mean, this seems strange. I know it does, and it doesn't seem like it's really connected, but these things just keep coming up.
Have either of you experienced this before?
I mean, I've had a moment or two, like I said, since we've all met, since this has all happened, but I don't know if this is anything to do with the changeover or whether this is something that actually did happen. I don't know.
Yeah, not that I can think of either.
And you two saw each other, and none of us.
I saw Cosette. Everybody
Unfortunately,
else's faces
Peculiar.
Yeah,
were
I
like they
don't.
were like blurry.
I haven't seen anything similar. Not quite sure what he's talking about, but I have gotten a feeling here and there.
Sounds quite strange, yet oddly in line with that which we are experiencing. But no, I have not seen anything as such myself.
No, neither have I.
Why it is you two, I have no idea. When the other time that you experienced it, where were we? What was happening?
I don't think Cassette remembers anything. I think she just noticed that her hair's been like that, but I don't think she's really been able to link it to anything.
The one time I can remember to think back, we were in the woods. I think we had just found that waterfall before we had gotten to the court, and the Boffin court.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was like Phil. Do you remember if there was anything that was like actually like? I just don't recall. It was a while ago. I don't think it was anything memorable like that was actually a memory or anything.
I definitely had the thing where I saw the hag.
Yeah, you saw a hag. And then
Now.
she was gone.
Oh, okay. I remember now.
Much like Cosette did. Interesting.
I'm trying to find it in my notes.
Well, I actually think this is a perfect place to put in a stop for the night anyway, with you currently poring over the craziness of hags.
Okay, I've got it. All right, I had flashes of a dream. I saw a young woman in a clearing, and she suddenly turned old, and time seemed to shift. She bit her thumb after smiling and disappeared into the bush, and then I looked down, and a fingernail was missing from the same thumb as she bit. It felt like a dream, and a Cosette was there. Seemed like it sort of happened before, but I don't know who else was there, and I don't know her name or who she was.
It's just a typical day, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yep, everything's fine.
Dun dun dun.
Camera zoom in.
Tune in next week.
Will Bardor find the rest of his thumb?
Yeah, right.
Will Cosette ever be able to grow her hair out cute again?
Thank you for listening, everybody. This is Rich again. I just wanted to pop in this week and throw a little shout out to Sword Coast Soundscapes, where we actually get a lot of our background kind of ambience and whatnot for that I kind of lay out underneath the podcast. We do put a little link to their YouTube channel in the description each week, but go check them out if you play yourself. They are great to put on in the background whilst you play, give you that full immersion and everything. Just wanted to give them a little shout out. Alright, well, join us next time to see where we go from here. Are we going to start following these weird dreams and visions that are happening? Find out next time. Bye for now.